Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and this is how to use Whimsicott. Now, don't let those stats fool you. Whimsicott is a prankster Pokemon, so it only has malicious intent, and it does get a lot of usage out of the stats. When we look at it, 116 base speed. 116 speed is good on almost any Pokemon, but Whimsicott is actually the fastest prankster Pokemon because of it. So that gives us a lot of outplay potential on other pranksters, as well as just ridiculous +1 speed priority on status moves, and it lets us do a lot. Now, the rest of the stats aren't insane. Defenses could be a little better, but 85 defense, 75 special defense, and 60 hit points. If we go full tank investment to that, we're not going to be absolutely frail, but we only have 77 on the special attack, so we're not going to have much to do like that. Look at its typing. It's a grass fairy typing, but with the introduction of fairy, became fairy, and now it has a 4 times weakness to poison. And either way, you do have quite a lot of weaknesses that you will want to avoid, but you do get a trade-off with a little bit more on the resisting side. Our resistances are going to be fighting, ground, water, grass, electric, and dark. Our weaknesses are going to be flying, poison, steel, fire, and ice. So the grass typing giving us quite a bit to be worried about, but the fairy typing also just kind of adding on a bit, but we do get the immunity to dragon. But overall, that's going to be Whimsicott on a defensive scale. Hopping into Pokemon Showdown, we're going to see that this is how you use Whimsicott right here, and that's Substitute and Leech Seed. So it's called Subseed, and then you kind of run whatever else you want to after that. First off, I do want to cover the mechanics of Subseed. That if you use Whimsicott as a lead, it's possible, or you can just kind of use it whenever on the battle. You need to understand what your opponent is doing. If you know your opponent is going to go for setup or status, that's when you do the Substitute first. If they're going for direct damage, that's when you have to throw out the Leech Seed first, and then you just start to get into a really big rhythm. That since you healed 1/8 of your target's hit points, and then leftovers, you know, by the time you Leech Seed leftovers, get that Substitute. If they don't break it, you're pretty much healing up most, if not all, of the Substitute back, just from getting that setup going, depending on what they're doing. Now here's where the other things come into play. Do you want to run Protect? If you run Protect, you become the ultimate frustration, but you are going for a very long stall game against your opponent when you break it down, because Leech Seed, well, that's only going to be doing 1/8 of the health, and if they have like sustain, like a recover, any kind of healing, or if they have leftovers even, it's going to take a long time to burn them down. But at the same time, you're going to be healing 3/8 of your health before they even get a chance to attack you, because 1/4 of your health from double Leech Seed, and then 1/8 from double leftovers, because you just Substitute Protect, and then whenever they hit you, you know, you just bring up Substitute, and it's all going to be under priority, so they won't be able to hit you. That's an option. Now, you also might see Taunt on Whimsicott, but this is where it gets interesting, because if you're playing the Substitute Protect and Leech Seed correctly, then that means your opponent shouldn't be hitting you at any time, so that way you just, even if they're going for setup, you can eventually outpace them. Now, the good thing about Taunt, though, is if they are trying to go for setup, you get to shut that down, and that might lead to a free Substitute. They use Substitute, they go Swords Dance. You use Taunt, if they were getting greedy and going for a second Swords Dance, that's a wasted turn, and now you have that free Substitute up, and then you have your Leech Seed going, and then whatever else you want after that, and then the last move, again, it's going to be one of those things that you kind of put whatever here, that you can go for Cotton Guard. That Cotton Guard means if your opponent has a lot of physical Pokemon on the team, just set up 2 Cotton Guards, now you're unbreakable. You get to hide behind that Leech Seed Substitute, and then it doesn't matter because they're not going to be doing any damage to you, and it might not even break the Substitute if you get enough Cotton Guard going behind you. With this, you can also add Giga Drain or Moonblast. Giga Drain, going to be less damage, but it's just a little more than just Leech Seed. However, it will mean that you will get walled out by Grass-type Pokemon. However, if you're using Moonblast, Grass Poison typing wall you out anyway, and here's the thing. So what you need is a lot of Fire types on your team if you're running Whimsicott. That if you remove the 1 or 2 Grass threats your opponent has, then Whimsicott's going to be able to clean up, but it's going to take a very long time. So just understand that you're going in for the long stall when you're playing that Whimsicott. So if you have Giga Drain, that's where you can have Cotton Guard, or you can just go for Protect. Again, with Protect and Giga Drain, if they don't manage to break your Substitute, or if they're going for some kind of setup, and depending on how your opponent's doing against it, there could just be no way of breaking you down until you eventually run out of like Substitutes and Protects, and that could be very difficult to have to get around for your opponent. The only way to beat Whimsicott is one-shotting it with a fresh Pokemon that hasn't gotten Leech Seed. That's it. That's your only turn, is that if it Leech Seeds you and then you get to one-shot it before it goes for the Substitute and crazy shenanigans. That's your only hope, so you better use it wisely. Next up, we have Double Battle Whimsicott. Now, Double Battle Whimsicott is kind of the same idea. Since it is the fastest taunt in the game, it's a very strong utility Pokemon. That Thunderous. Thunderous is a Pokemon that you'll see with Prankster. It has Thunder Wave, it has Taunt. It wants to do a lot of nasty things with that 111 base speed, so 179 speed at level 50. Whimsicott level 50, all you need to do is give it 220 EVs into speed to outspeed it, And then you don't need any more EVs into it because you're not outspeeding any other pranksters because it is the fastest prankster. So that is a little bit of tech to pay attention to. So I'd say put the rest in special defense or defense, whatever your preference is, and then the rest in the hit points. Now we're going to be fairly tanky and we can set up whatever we want. So if we do see a Thunderous or another Pokemon that might be going for taunt, we taunt them first. They lose their turn pretty much unless they kind of read you and then go offensively. But that's a big risk for them because if they don't try to taunt you, then you have the opportunity of setting up Leech Seed or Substitute or whatever. After that, Whimsicott can use Tailwind. The only thing that you have to worry about is like a high speed invested Talonflame going for the one shot, but then Talonflame leaves itself vulnerable, so if you support Whimsicott with like Fake Out, Quick Guard, or just some rock offense, you might be good against it. And then, like, once you get the setup going, you know, Tailwind, going to have that speed priority, and then you can do whatever. Leech Seed is going to make it nice for your team. You can switch out, bring in new Pokemon. That Pokemon's going to be receiving the effects of Leech Seed. You also have Substitute. We can use Dazzling Gleam to hit both opponents. We have all sorts of things. If you want to be really nasty, I mean, Whimsicott gets Swagger, so you can Swagger them, try to make them hit themselves in confusion for a little bit of frustration. You get Stun Spore. Now, Stun Spore, it's an iffy move. Thunder Wave has perfect accuracy. Whimsicott doesn't get that, so you have a 75% chance of paralyzing your target, and it might be a little redundant under the Tailwind, but it depends on the shutdown you're going for, or you can just set up Substitute and be an annoyance, but even then, you have some other options. Right here, we have some other things that you can do. You have Memento, Encore, Helping Hand. That in double battles, Helping Hand. It's a huge move that, you know, you set up Tailwind, Helping Hand. What's your opponent going to be able to do about it? Now, whatever Pokemon you want right next to you is going to have incredible amounts of speed and boosted incredible amounts of damage. So you have a Pokemon like Garchomp trying to hit both opponents with an Earthquake. Even though there are flying type Pokemon, you know, come up with something that's just going to do absurd amounts of damage. And if you're having Helping Hand, then you might want the Protect. So instead of Leech Seed, you can just go for the Protect. That way you protect whatever moves. You might see an Explosion, you might see the Earthquake, you might see Discharge, you might see any kind of random assortment of double hitting moves. One thing that's really excellent is, say, a Blastoise. You give Blastoise a Tailwind, it can use Water Spout. That's going to be a monstrous amount of damage off of like a Specs Water Spout or something, and Whimsicott just provides that support, and there's really not a lot of ways of getting over that. You also have Encore. Instead of running Taunt, or even with Taunt, you go for the Encore. Say they go for Protect. Now you outspeed them with the Encore and they're stuck using Protect, which isn't going to work. Same with Fake Out. If they Fake Out Whimsicott, if they Fake Out another Pokemon, next turn you Encore them. Now they're locked into using that Fake Out and they're going to have a pretty bad time because of it. And then Memento. Memento is going to be more for singles. So as for that fourth move, whatever you want to put, if you are on the back foot, then you just use Memento, and it's going to bring a lot of power into your next Pokemon. Right, then there's also Charm. So, as if it didn't have enough devastating things. So, in single battles, you can go for Cotton Guard and become unstoppable, or in doubles, you just go for Charm. That way, if your opponent has a physical attacker, then you just charm them down, make them lose half their attack before they get a chance to attack, and that can be pretty nasty right there. So, you also have to commit with Whimsicott. Like, are you going to be full status support? Do you want a little bit of damage, or are you just going to go for the Havoc? So, that's going to be Whimsicott. A lot of really technical prankstery things. It doesn't seem like it does a lot, because it mostly just makes the game freeze. That, you know, nothing is going to happen in single battles once a Whimsicott hits the field and there's no grass-type Pokemon to go up against it. It's just impossible to deal with. But then in doubles, it is going to do the opposite, speed up the battle quite a lot. Oh, what's that? Tailwind? Cool, I'll just use an Explosion or something, or I'll just go for like incredible high damage moves and try to get a 3-turn sweep, because Whimsicott is the catalyst for that. So guys, enjoy the video. That's how you use Whimsicott, and I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching.